Amish families put up enough food every harvest to feed their household through an entire year, and none of it touches a refrigerator. 4 methods using nothing but salt, vinegar, and jars already in the pantry keep food safe for up to 2 years. Most American homes knew all 4 of these until 60 years ago. There are 4 core methods, and knowing which one to use for which food is what makes this system work. Each one uses a different mechanism to prevent the bacterial and fungal growth that causes spoilage, and each one has been verified by food scientists to be genuinely safe when followed correctly. The first is salt packing. Salt draws moisture out of food through osmosis and creates an environment with water activity low enough that most spoilage bacteria cannot grow. This is how Amish families preserve green beans, cucumbers, cabbage, and most vegetables through winter and beyond. Pack raw vegetables tightly into a clean jar. Layer coarse pickling salt between each layer at roughly 1 tablespoon per quart of vegetables. Press everything down firmly and cover with a clean cloth secured with a rubber band to allow gases to escape while keeping dust out. Store in a cool, dark location. The vegetables will last 6 months to a year, and the salt can be rinsed off before eating. This is not the same as canning. No heat is required. The salt itself is the preservation mechanism. The second is Lacto-Fermentation, which is what happens naturally when salt-packed vegetables are left to develop over several days at room temperature. The salt inhibits harmful bacteria, while allowing naturally occurring lactobacillus bacteria to thrive and produce lactic acid, which drops the pH of the food to a level where almost no spoilage organism can survive. Sauerkraut is the most familiar example, but the same process works on carrots, beets, peppers, green beans, garlic, and most firm vegetables. Traditional Amish households maintained a fermentation crock running continuously through the harvest season and replenished it as each batch was consumed. The lactic acid produced is also what gives fermented foods their distinctive tang and what makes them easier to digest than raw vegetables, since the fermentation process partially breaks down the plant cell walls. The third method is the vinegar brine, which is the basis of traditional pickling. Heat white or apple cider vinegar with water at a 2-to-1 ratio, add salt and any desired spices, pour over packed vegetables in clean jars while still hot, and seal with a lid. The acetic acid in the vinegar drops the pH below 4.6, which is the threshold below which Clostridium botulinum cannot produce its toxin. This is the specific pH target that the USDA uses as the standard for safe home pickling, and it is why vinegar concentration matters. The 2-to-1 vinegar ratio used in traditional Amish pickling reliably achieves this pH. Do not dilute the vinegar further than this ratio or use vinegar with less than 5% acidity, since both reduce effectiveness. The fourth method is covered with rendered lard, which was the standard way to preserve cooked meat before refrigeration. Cooked pork, duck, or chicken pressed into a clean jar and covered completely with a solid layer of rendered lard creates an anaerobic barrier that prevents spoilage organisms from reaching the food. Confit, the French version of this same technique, is still used in professional kitchens today. Sealed properly and stored in a cool pantry, meat preserved this way remains safe for 6 months to a year. The fat seal must be complete with no air pockets, which is why meat is always pressed down firmly before the fat is poured over. Old Amish farmhouses were built with a root cellar below the frost line that maintains a temperature between 32 and 40 degrees year-round without any mechanical cooling. If you do not have a root cellar, a north-facing interior closet, an unheated basement corner, or the back of a lower cabinet away from the stove, all approximate the cool, dark conditions these methods need. The most important thing to understand about all 4 methods is that they do not require specialized equipment. Clean glass jars, coarse salt, vinegar with a documented 5% acidity, and a cool storage spot are the complete material list. American pantries had all of these things as a matter of course for most of this country's history. The refrigerator replaced the knowledge, not the need. Start with salt-packed cucumbers this week if you have them in your garden or at a farmer's market. Pack a quart jar, add the salt, cover, and set it in a cool spot. Check it in 5 days. What you find in that jar is the beginning of something that would have kept your family fed through winter 2 generations ago. Subscribe, because the next video covers the one preservation mistake that most people make with vinegar pickling that makes food go soft instead of staying crisp, and the old Amish fix for it costs nothing. Tell me in the comments what food you most want to preserve and cannot figure out how, because that tells me exactly which method to cover in more detail next.